All right, for more analysis, we're joined by Sean King, a Senior Vice President of Park Strategies. Sean, so your take, how big is the Taiwan card in the midterms for both parties, and who would you say holds that card for now?
It's not big at all. As I remind my fellow Republicans, it was a Republican, Richard Nixon, who first betrayed Chiang Kai-shek by going to Beijing in 1972 to meet Mao Zedong. And it was a Democratic Congress that passed the Taiwan Relations Act in 1979. Until Trump, it wasn't a Republican or Democrat issue. It was more a congressional versus White House issue, where Congress tends to be pro-Taiwan and the White House kind of defers to Beijing. But since Trump, both the White House and Congress pushed Taiwan, and Biden's only continued that. So I don't really see much change in substance, but maybe on style, Republicans will push certain issues more than Democrats did. For instance, the Taiwan Policy Act that just passed the Senate, where it's under Democratic control, things like flying the Republic of China flag, changing the Taipei Economic and Cultural Representative Office to the Taiwan Representative Office, and Senate confirmation for the U.S. representative to Taiwan, those things were taken out at the White House request. But the real substantive things like arms sales and financing for those were kept in. If you have a Republican House, they may not be willing to take out those stylish issues so as to embarrass Biden ahead of the 2024 election. So I see it more as an issue of style over substance.
And if we look at the midterms then from the perspectives of Taiwan and China, does it matter to them who holds power in Washington?
I think Beijing probably would be a little wary of a Republican House only because they think they're going to push the White House in other areas like technology or South China Sea or other things that may incur Beijing's wrath. But on Taiwan itself, they know that Democrats and Republicans are usually aligned on this issue. So for that, I don't think they'll see much difference. And I don't think Taiwan really cares one way or another. Things are going so well for Taiwan and DC right now, it doesn't matter who's in power anywhere.
When you look at this partisan dynamic in the U.S. with Republicans and Democrats competing to show sort of greater support for Taiwan, what does it mean for U.S.-China relations in a practical role?
Well, U.S. PRC relations have been not great even since the Obama pivot in the early 2000s. 2010s. We see these B-52 bombers that are going to Australia. That's been under discussion since the Obama-Gillard days. So there's a downward trajectory in U.S. PRC relations, regardless of Taiwan and regardless of who in power. So that's a great power competition that's going to play itself out no matter who's in power in D.C.
And Taiwan has its own upcoming midterm set for November the 26th. Does the U.S.-China relationship factor in to them at all? Do voters weigh up things like Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi visiting in August that sparked unprecedented Chinese military activity?
Well, I got to say, as a Republican, Nancy Pelosi right now is one of my favorite Democrats for visiting the island, and I wish her husband Paul a speedy recovery from this outrageous attack on their home. These elections tend to be about local issues, and I've looked at the polling data on the Pelosi visit. Among Taiwanese, blue and green, so KMT and DPP, there's uniform support for that visit, and it's not even an election issue because everybody supports it. Most of the issues are local. The one race that I am watching is in Taipei because that's often a waiting room for presidents, and the great-grandson of Chiang Kai-shek, the KMT dictator, is up for election. Now, if he wins with even 30 or 35% of the vote, that's going to tell me something about how Taiwanese view the past. And also, there's a referendum on the ballot that would lower the voting age to 18. But half of registered voters have to turn out and vote in it for it to count. If that passes, that means 2 more years of people younger voting in the next presidential election who would overwhelmingly vote DPP. So I think the most important thing to take from the upcoming local elections in Taiwan is whether or not that referendum passes, because that basically means thousands of more votes for whoever the DPP candidate is in 2024.
And Sean, a week to go into the elections, your call in the midterms, how do you think it will go?
Right now, as of today, I would say Republicans take the House, Democrats keep the Senate, and that could be a 50-50 tie with Vice President Harris breaking it. But every day Republicans surge, even in places like Georgia. So we could see Republicans with Both houses. But as of today, I'd say Republicans House, Democrats Senate.
All right, many thanks, Sean, for speaking to us this morning. That's Sean King, there, Senior Vice President at Park Strategies.